Okay, start again. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Boop. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's department budget hearings. We will have a presentation tonight from the Department of Development Services, Capital Improvement Projects, and Internal Audit. I am Councilwoman Marilyn E. Rossetti, and I am the Chair of Operations Management, Budget, and Government Accountability Committee. This meeting is broadcasting live on HPA-TV's Xfinity Government Channel 96 and Frontier Government Channel 6032. It will also be streamed via HPA-TV.org, the HPA-TV Facebook page, and HPA-TV Apple TV, Amazon TV, and Roku TV apps. It will also be made available on the HPA-TV YouTube channel. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues present today who aren't presently here but are here, Council President Clark and Councilman Mitchum. Tonight's first presentation will be, as I said, the Department of Development Services. We have the Director, Jeff Auker, with us, and I know he has some of his staff. You're on.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rossetti. We're happy to have the opportunity to talk about what we've done and, more importantly, where we're going. And if we want to jump right into it. On this first slide, Councilwoman, we've taken a lot of thought into a new mission statement, or a crystallized mission statement for the 6 divisions that make up the Department of Development Services. I won't go through the reading of here, and hopefully what you see and what we present will show how this comes together. But we've taken a lot of pride and a lot of time in making sure we know where our different divisions interact, encouraging them to interact, going so far as even to have other departments like Health and Human Services and the fire marshals spending time in the Department of Development Services alongside us, where we have joint responsibilities. So what you'll see in that mission statement is taking sustainability very seriously, but also embodying the hopes and the aspirations of we want the built structure of this city to be to support the residents. If you flip to the next slide, please. So this is probably what I'm most proud of. I don't know if I've ever been as proud of a team that I've put together in my career. And what you'll see on this slide is the leadership of Department of Development Services and where the different divisions fit together. A couple of things to highlight on some changes and to illustrate our thinking. You see that Judith Rothschild is the deputy of this department, along with overseeing L&I, as she has done quite capably for a while. This was an intentional move. This was to take the weight of not only her experience and her capabilities, but put the weight of the department fully behind her pronouncements when they deal with enforcement and other things like that. So we're really proud to have Judith as the deputy here in the department. To cover the administrative and personnel issues, we've promoted Rob Faircloth to be the manager of the operations here, taking his long-term service to the city in operations and finance and really putting a sharper focus on the numbers and the reporting as we come out of this. A couple small things that we've done to kind of streamline some of the thinking and show how things align. Underneath Judith's group, we also have Light. Now, we didn't change anything about what Mike is doing and what his team are. We're just trying to make it clear that Mike also has, with his team, that weight of L&I and Judith's deputyship behind her. And we've more tightly aligned planning with economic development, bringing those together. Now, these are things that we think will really drive the strategy and the responses to the needs of the city as they're articulated through you and the constituents. But what I'm really proud of here is we have a complete team. When I came on board and when the mayor came on board a couple years ago, for a variety of reasons, economic development had been, we had COVID, we had other things we had to deal with. So the ability to recreate, to rebuild this team with all the right capabilities, I'm very proud of. On the next slide, you'll see the basic demographic composition of the staff. One thing I do want to point out here is that we do have 84 positions filled. We've long been hovering at like 30-40% vacancies, and that's been reflected in previous administrations and other challenges on meeting all of our needs. We've taken very seriously the need to staff up to our budget. We still have 7 positions that are vacant, but most of these are the rotational things that just kind of happen with natural attrition. The one thing that I will point out here, and we'll get to a little bit at the end, is everything you see on these paper and in front of you and everything we're going to talk about, you're basically getting this for the same expense and the same that was here when we got here, when the mayor took over. So we've kept our expenses outside of COLA and other collectively bargained things that we can't change basically flat, and we believe we've delivered a full team and a lot more capability here. So just to go over a couple of highlights before I turn it over to the team, we've made quite a big deal about the first thing we did is we just tackled that time that it took to get your permits and your licensing through. There's a lot more underneath this and a lot of work that's being done. But you'll see, I don't want to drain this slide, but just the volume that comes through this department and how well this department takes that stewardship and how seriously they do. A lot comes through here. We're trying to make it more efficient, more transparent, and be able to increase the volume as we look at things like housing and other key priorities of the city. And then the last slide for me, and this is one that I'll leave for y'all to read. This really gets into how we're thinking about each division and how they operate for the city and with each other. I do want to point out that we have taken a lot of time here, and what I really think that we've gotten right so far is we've gotten the people right in this department. There's still a lot of work to do, but I think with the team we have, we're going to get there. So I'd like to turn this over to the directors for each division as we go through here. Again, we're not going to go through everything here, but we started having some sessions in PEDH and some on-demand sessions with different divisions in the council meetings. As we go deeper, and if you see things you really want to get into, we welcome the invite to continue the discussion, whether it be over one division or others moving forward throughout the year. Just let us know and we'll be happy to give you the details. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Owen, our Director of Planning.
Good evening, council members. Planning starts with listening. We attend every NRZ meeting and are always looking for new ways to build bridges with the community. Last year, we greatly expanded our social media presence and developed dashboards for the public to know exactly what we're working on. And then our job is to deliver on what we've heard with area plans like the Homestead Avenue redevelopment plan, which came out of an earlier planning effort with the Upper Albany neighborhood. But our main occupation is to promote responsible development and keep it moving forward. To that end, we reviewed and approved over 2,000 land use applications last year, including over 500 or almost 500 new housing units. We're also constantly trying to make development more accessible, like with dozens of updates to the zoning code recently completed and revisions to the historic guidelines underway and other streamlining of our permit procedures and systems. Transportation safety is a major priority of the planning division and one that has many components we could get into more detail on. Just for some highlights, beginning with enforcement, we submitted to DOT the plan adopted by council for speed cameras in school zones and are actively preparing for installation of those cameras with additional speed and red light cameras in the works. We're also working closely with DOT on several other projects, such as upgrades of bus shelters around the city. After working with Blue Hills on comprehensive traffic calming throughout the neighborhood, that construction is starting as we speak, so that we can reduce to zero the number of people like Malachi James who lost their lives due to factors we have the power to change. We're developing additional designs for traffic calming on a number of other high-risk corridors. And we're also moving forward on the city's bike and trail network in Keeney Park, Albany Avenue, and other places around the city so that all residents have safe alternative methods of transportation, which also contribute to the city's economic development and quality of life. In addition to the work already mentioned, there are major projects around the corner, which we're excited about. The design is kicking off for Riverlink, which will be a new connection to the river for the North End and the Arrowhead area, and the first phase of the Heartline. Nearby, the design of a new public plaza, overseen by DDS, we expect to be constructed by the end of the year. And most importantly, for getting all of this done, our team continues to grow, both in number and ability. And I'm happy to say that by the summer, for the first time in years, we're on track to have the division be fully staffed.
Thank you, Owen. Next, we'll turn it over. Thank you, Owen. Next, we'll turn it over to Jack Benjamin, the Director of Economic Development.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jack Benjamin, and I lead the Economic Development Division. So essentially our primary focus in economic development is to advance good, positive development in the city. And we do this through a number of different actions. We establish public-private partnerships. We work to unlock and reposition brownfields and underutilized properties for productive reuse. We advocate for amendments to the city code that can better spur good development. We incentivize investment and development via our tax abatements, modifications, programs, and additionally partnering with private entities on grants and loans. And we connect prospective investors and developers with the resources they need to get projects completed. In addition to advancing development, we work to attract, expand, and retain high-quality businesses through our various incentive programs and strategic partnerships. We manage and maintain a portfolio of city-owned property, and we work to reposition that property from an underutilized and unproductive asset back onto the tax rolls, producing as an asset to the community. And then we generally encourage growth through a strategic acquisition and disposition process. And finally, a main task of ours is to compile, be the stewards of, and analyze data that can inform city decision-making to promote economic development. So the first slide, the first slide essentially gives you a little bit of an overview of what the last year looked like in our strategic acquisition and disposition process through our property management arm. So we took in property and we engage in repositioning. We as a public agency are able to source funding that a private entity may not be able to do in many cases. And we're able to take unproductive assets such as brownfields that have contamination or blight issues. We're able to find the funding, source the funding to get that cleaned up and make them more attractive for development on the private market. That's essentially what repositioning is. And then we have a strategic disposition process either via a request for proposals process to solicit interested buyers and developers, or through direct sale and other disposition operations. This essentially shows you the slew of development projects that we are essentially stewards of, if not directly involved with, in some kind of assistance and financing. So we have a number of projects that are either city-owned or privately owned that are essentially brownfields. That we're working to source funding or actively doing cleanup on to, again, reposition for productive reuse. We have a number of projects, public and private, that are in pre-development stages. Most of those are public-private partnerships of some kind in which we, the city, has skin in the game through an incentive or tax modification or partnership on a grant from the state, something like that. We have 10 projects under active construction right now, which we monitor on generally a bi-weekly basis with the project management team from the developer and or general contractor to ensure compliance. And then we have 4 relatively recently completed projects. Wanted to just highlight a couple quickly. So one that's in the works and will be coming online later this year and that we're very proud of, we've taken an active hand on, is the Albany Woodland project. That's a major linchpin revitalization project on the Albany corridor in the North End. We'll be bringing a full-service restaurant, sit-down restaurant to that, as well as a couple other tenants that we're very excited about. And then the other project I wanted to highlight is 150 Windsor, the data center eyesore north of downtown proper. And we are working right now to do abatement and demolition on that building and hopefully have an announcement pretty soon about its intended reuse. Great, and a couple things that we're proud of, that we're excited about, is bringing the restaurant 29 Markle to the Albany Woodland project. That's a cornerstone piece of this project and for the neighborhood. The Pratt Street student housing project downtown, we think is going to have a major positive impact on the neighborhood. And then some recent adaptive reuse projects we've done with some city property and state property, the 275 Pearl, the firehouse that Wonderworks is undertaking, and 55 Elm, which was completed by Spinnaker this year and is online. And what we're focused on now, again, completing the demo and abatement work at the 150 Windsor site to be able to reuse that property. We're driving a capital proposals for DECD's Innovation Clusters Grant for the Prospective AI Center. And we're leading our strategy to ultimately engage in an office to residential conversion program for a lot of the office towers downtown that have fallen on harder times. So essentially that gives you an overview of what we do in economic development. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Next up, we got Paige Burchett, our Director of Small Business Initiatives.
Good evening, Council. Thanks for having us today. So here we have a slide that gives us a brief look into all of the offerings that the Small Business Division provides. So this goes anywhere from our Neighborhood Investment Fund, which helps with build-out funding for vacant or remediated commercial buildings in some of our corridors, to our Micro Enterprise Grant with the Urban League. So this totals $16.7 million over these 5 initiatives. So last fiscal year, we definitely made some great progress in all of these 5 initiatives, but this year we definitely have a lot more work to complete, especially with regard to our facade improvement. A lot of work has been done with the design and working with the property owners, and we got a construction manager on board, so there'll definitely be some good progress there on Barber Street, Main Street, and Albany Ave. And then another, thing that is closing out this fiscal year or this year will be the Heartlift grant, which we partnered with the Hartford Chamber of Commerce. So very exciting kind of progress with all of our small business initiatives and more work to be done. And then with regards to what we're most proud of, the Neighborhood Investment Fund, which we launched last year, we've committed $1.6 million to 8 projects across neighborhood corridors, which includes Albany Ave, Maple, and Park Street. And soon we'll also have some new commitments for Barber and then a couple more on the other corridors. One thing to really know, 100% of these projects are minority and women-owned businesses, which I think is a really great testament to the work that we did to try to connect with the community there and, ensure that the businesses were representatives of those areas. We also advocated for some additional state funding to extend the Neighborhood Investment Fund to Farmington Ave, both in the Asylum Hill and West End neighborhoods, totaling $5.6 million set aside. So that'll be, started this year, where we're going to do some of the preliminary work to get some of those commitments together for projects. We're now focused again on the facade program and making sure that those projects are actually completed this fiscal year. And we continue to collaborate with Upper Albany Main Street to provide small business digital literacy through the Upper Albany Economic Development Program. So that is, again, just a glimpse into what we've been working on. So really proud of the progress we've been making.
Thank you, Paige. Now we're going to kick it over to John Cabral, our Director of Housing, on the road here, who's in D.C. or on his way back from defending the city's interests with the federal government. John?
Yes, thanks. Can folks hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Can folks hear me? Okay, great.
Yes.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. My name is John Cabral. I'm the new Director of Housing. My apologies for not being there in person today. I was very fortunate to be welcomed as a guest for the with the organization called the National Community Reinvestment Coalition, who works in a variety of communities across the country to sort of introduce different lending products to low and moderate income neighborhoods and work with community partners. So I got to work with some great folks and do some work up at the Capitol today. So thanks for having me. So I just want to highlight some of the work that we've done in the housing division. So as many of you may or may not know, the housing division is responsible for administering over 5,000 housing choice vouchers. These are mobile vouchers and project-based vouchers that are part of projects. And these vouchers make projects work and house folks who really need help paying their rent. So we're quite proud of that. Alongside that, we also manage the Fair Rent Commission for the city. And we've had, over the last year, we've had about 63 cases that we've managed. Most of them have luckily been managed through mediation, so they haven't had to go in front of the commission, which we're quite proud of. But in some cases, we have had to go in front of the commission, and we're able to adjudicate over 14 cases over the last several months. We're hoping to strengthen our parent commission and also market the commission going forward, so folks know that it's here to help them as they see rent increases that may just be unjustified or unfair. We also manage a full homeownership program. So we manage the Hartford program, which is a down payment assistance program for folks moving into the city, targeted to low and moderate income individuals. We've seen a significant decline in the usage of the program over the last few years. I think mostly because of the cost of housing and because some of our participating lenders just aren't as active in our neighborhoods. So we're actively reaching out to other lenders who are working in our communities to get them on board to use our product. We've also connected with the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority, which offers their own down payment assistance program, which is forgivable, much like our program. And we found out that, in fact, our programs are not aligned. And so we're working to align our programs, made some recent tweaks. So we anticipate House Hartford program to be utilized more significantly going into this home buying season and going forward. We also administer the employee home buyer program. And so we've had a total of 10 city employees use the program since its inception, and we're seeing that program continue and growing over the next year. So pretty exciting to see our own folks using the program and moving to the city of Hartford. Go ahead, next slide. Great. Something I'm most proud of now in this role is being able to launch new initiatives. So many of you are probably aware that the mayor announced the Lots to Homes initiative at the end of last year, where we've targeted 18 city-owned properties. Many of them, some of them with structure, some of them vacant properties, where we've asked developers to provide an idea, a plan to revitalize those vacant lots and those structured home ownership opportunities. And so with those 18 lots, we received over 45 applicants who are interested. Many of them wanted multiple sites. And so a committee of folks within DDS and with a partnership with the Hartford Land Bank, who selected local developers, some emerging developers, to move those lots into homes. Those lots will become homeownership opportunities for those earning up to 120% of area median, which we're quite proud of that. And that's one of the programs I get to discuss up here at the Capitol this week, and folks are really excited to hear and learn more. We also have a new initiative where we're working with a lender, Liberty Bank, and a foundation, the Connecticut Project, to move folks from using their housing choice voucher for rental to home ownership. It's a program that the city has offered in the past, but it's woefully underutilized. So we are working with our lenders and our philanthropic partners to get folks to be able to save, have matched funds, have some post-purchase supports for those individuals, so they can start building wealth rather than use their voucher to pay rent and build wealth for landlords. They can now build wealth for themselves. We're working on developing a rent-to-own program. I'm actually working really closely with the Department with the Division of Economic Development on this, and we have a couple of different ideas, a couple of different partners that we're working through some design initiatives, hoping to get the state on board. So more to come there. And then finally, we're reevaluating how we use our federal dollars. Both our home and CDBG programs are high demand, but can we do more with it? And can we do some things are slightly different? So there has been a large, significant need for pre-development dollars. So trying to figure out how we can potentially use those resources so that we can spur on more future housing development. Or work with maybe philanthropic partners to figure out how to meet that need. So lots of exciting things happening in the housing division. Looking forward to meeting all of you soon. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thanks. Oh, things I'm proud of, yeah. Grab the slide. So I think some of these I've mentioned. So we've launched the employee home buyers program. Again, it's a 0% interest forgivable loan up to $40,000 for city employees who are looking to either purchase their first home or purchase a home in Hartford. We've done some really good aligning of different programs to make sure that our program works with other state initiatives so that most of our residents get bigger bangs for their buck. And the Lots of Homes initiative is something that many folks are really interested in. Folks are asking when is the next tranche of Lots of Homes, when are those going to be available? here in DC, I got to talk about it with some lenders and some policymakers who are really interested to learn more. And then we also launched our Neighborhood Homes Investment Act program with the Housing Development Fund. That's actually based on a proposed federal legislation. Again, folks are really interested to see how that will spur on future home ownership development. So a lot happening in the division, and I'm looking forward to sharing outcomes next time we meet. Thanks.
Thanks, John, and safe travels. Thanks for making the time here. All right, next I'd like to turn it over to the DDS Deputy Director and Director of Licensing and Inspections, Judith Rothschild.
Thank you, Jeff, and good evening, Council President and also Councilwoman and Councilmen. Very happy to be back before you at my almost 5-year anniversary working for this incredible city and this incredible department. So I want to say that in my experience in working with code enforcement, which goes several decades now, I have always considered it a privilege to work with code officials. They are truly the threshold to safe living and a safe environment, and every single day that I walk in the office, I see a very large team of people dedicated to do that. It's a tough job, but we've had some fantastic results. And the reason we've had fantastic results is because of the way we approach things together. We have a one-team revolution going on in the Department of Development Services. We have separate divisions within licenses and inspections, the building officials team, the permitting and licensing division, the housing code enforcement division, the rental licensing program, and next door to us, very much over at our house, and we're in theirs all the time, the blight remediation division. We work together every single day on several projects a day, several visionary things and several long-lasting things that we continue to try to resolve. Even today, there was a meeting that we held with a building owner who has a building on Farmington Avenue that had to be shut down because of an unsafe rear egress that affected 2 buildings of theirs side by side and had 10 different units having to be displaced. We met with him. We had the tenant liaison, Health and Human Services relocation, the fire marshal, the building official, housing code enforcement, and the blight remediation division all together demanding of them their best efforts to repair the violation and to get people housed safely immediately. And they worked with us to a degree. We met with them yesterday. We're meeting with them again tomorrow. We have a lot of work to do in these problems, but we have a much better result because we're working together and listening to each other and using our enforcement powers the best way possible. We're eliminating bottlenecks in this one-team revolution. We have the fire marshal's office working out of our office on a daily basis. The fire marshal plan review team is no longer across the city and talking to us through electronics. They're in a new planning office that we put next to DDS, where the building plan examiners and the fire marshal plan examiners sit together, solving plan reviews much faster than ever. And this has resulted in a 57% velocity boost in our ability to finish out permit process for our developers and owners and contractors. We have a data-driven enforcement happening too. We have improvements in our software. We have our housing code officials and building code officials in the field using the process improvements that they have electronically to do inputting right from the field so they don't have to come back to the office to do all their paperwork. That permits us to process a great number of enforcement notices and violations, move faster. And in our permitting office, we have processed over 2,500 permit applications just in the first 6 months of this fiscal year. We have also generated for this city almost $3 million in permit revenues. We don't compromise on safety. All of this is for the purpose of making it safe and build to last. We protect the standard of living for people who are living in our housing. We have a very proactive rental license program. We believe that the reduction in 311 calls that has happened over the last couple of years is directly a result of the proactive enforcement and inspections conducted by our teams that are part of the rental license program. We have responded to over 1,255 code complaints on the housing code side and issued over 700 notices of violation, all within the last 6 months, or the first 6 months of the fiscal year. We team up with the other divisions of the city and departments of the city to hit the most egregious landlords in the Problem Landlords Task Force, which DDS leads. And we've had some great successes with that. Most recently, with an after hours, actually I'll call it early hours, court authorized, administrative search warrant entrance on an illegal after hours party that was operating in a basement that had about 1,100 square feet and about 130 people packed in there with illegal sale of liquor. We can be very effective when we use the tools of our departments, including the Hartford Police Department, with us. We have AI enhancement that we're working on for our automated systems, and we work very closely with the tenant liaison to move people who have been displaced through necessary emergency actions back into their homes as fast as possible. In a closing statement, let me just say that we have built the strongest inspection team in the state. We're very proud of it. We are no longer just checking boxes. We are protecting rights, accelerating growth for the city, and building a Hartford that everyone who wants to come here is happy to come here, and everyone who lives here does so safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. And now we'll move to Mike Perez, the director of our blight remediation team.
Good evening, esteemed members of the council. My name is Michael Perez. I'm the director of blight remediation. Our first slide shows some of the formal enforcement numbers that our blight remediation team has engaged in during this 6-month period. These are the same stats that we've been reporting during the last few budget hearing meetings. What this doesn't show is the collaboration that our inspectors do with other departments when emergencies arise, such as during the winter when we had urgent snow situations with sidewalks and crosswalks unshoveled. We were able to quickly work in tandem with the Health and Human Services Department, with DPW, to alert owners and issue orders to owners to clear away space for people to move with wheelchairs and for pedestrians to get about and for kids to get to school. That's one of the things that we do a lot, is collaborate with our partners in other departments on quality of life issues. We routinely collaborate with HHS, and as a designee of the director of HHS, we issue orders under their ordinance in order to effectuate service faster on urgent issues concerning, for example, accumulations of raw garbage. Situations like that, we don't want to issue formal orders, wait for a green card to come back. We want to use the fastest way possible that our ordinance allows. And so we partner with all of the colleagues in the city that can bring tools to bear on those quality of life issues. That's one of the things that I'm proud of, is the sort of breaking out of the silos effect, and the willingness of everyone on our team and everyone in our department to work as closely as possible with other departments to attack issues that affect all of us and, of course, everybody in the city. We issue large blight fines. The goal of that is when properties hit a dead end, vacant blighted properties hit a dead end, and there's nobody in the woodwork that can come out and save that property, whether it be the owner coming out and fixing himself or selling it to somebody else. We use large priority fines as a last resort to go and take those properties and acquire them, put them into our inventory. We've taken our foot off the gas a little bit this fine number does seem large because we've pivoted away from smaller fines, where if we get into a foreclosure action, a property could get, if we get into a foreclosure, that property could end up in an auction, and we have no control over who the next owner is. So when we come across these properties that do not have a path forward, the goal is to acquire enough fines and debt and leverage against those properties to acquire them outright. So our blight fines are going to become large enough so that when we do have to foreclose, we're sure that we're going to be able to acquire those properties at the end of that litigation. And pretty soon, the city's agreement with the land bank will be pushed through, and more properties can be transferred to the land bank, and we can get properties off of our inventory. And I'd be happy to talk to you guys offline or at another time about how that process would work and why the land bank can solve a lot of problems for us. I'm a big fan of the land bank. I was here when it was first created by the city. There were a lot of experts from around the country involved in putting that land bank together, and it's a best practice in many other inner cities that struggle with the same problems concerning underutilized vacant properties. And so it's a great tool that we have in our toolbox that will solve a lot of problems for us with regards to vacant properties. One of the things that I'm also very proud of is we've partnered with students from UConn and Trinity to conduct surveys of the city. Our most recent survey was to identify all of the properties with vacant structures in the city. And for the most part, we left out large areas of North and South Meadows and parts of downtown. The focus was to be on the neighborhoods and find where all these vacant properties are in the neighborhoods. And so we roughly have a list of 405 properties that we're tracking and monitoring. And by tracking and monitoring, I mean outreach to get a hold of those owners and find out what their plan is for those properties, especially if they're dilapidated and are exhibiting issues that may lead to that property's decline. We want to have conversations with the owner. We want to make sure that the owner has a plan going forward, that the owner knows where to get resources, that the owner knows about the city's tax deferral program, and knows where to find financing if they don't know where to look. What we're also doing is tracking work that's going on those properties. And we want to make sure that the work that is being conducted on our vacant properties by investors and contractors, whether they're local or out of state, is done above board. We're tracking whether or not permits are being applied for and issued for work that's being done. If we see work that's being done and there's no permits, our blight inspectors, who are also certified building officials, will issue stop work orders, and we'll call them in and say, why are you doing work without permits? We don't want another building put together with faulty electrical that's going to burn down in a year with people living in it. So, I mean, this is something that we take extremely seriously. It's a very meticulous and detailed process, but we follow up with owners when they submit permit applications but haven't supplied enough information. We'll follow up with owners on little things like that. And it's that type of hand-holding that has allowed us to get many properties over the finish line without resorting to formal enforcement and heavy fines against those owners. So out of the roughly 450 properties that were vacant and with structures that we found in the survey in 2025, 47 of those properties have been completely renovated. And when I say 47 properties, I'm referring to all residential properties, all with 12 units or under. The majority have 6 units and under. So these are all properties, residential properties in neighborhoods of smaller size that have been brought online during the calendar year of 2025. 47 that were vacant and blighted before we started working with the owners or subsequent owners. And the total value of permitted work on those 47 properties was roughly $5.5 million. So that's $5.5 million spent on these 47 properties, restoring them to constructive use, using local contractors, and that's something we're very proud of. This is not including vacant lots, which we also attempt to track and engage in enforcement on, and in partner with DPW and HHS to bring owners to bear in rectifying conditions on those properties. We've also foreclosed on a lot of vacant lots. Some of those lots are in our Lots to Home program. Some will be designated to transfer to the land bank for further development, with home ownership being a key. And that's all I have tonight, unless anybody has questions. Thank you.
We'll get to those. Thank you, Director Perez. And to wrap up our formal presentation, I'm going to turn it over to Rob Faircloth to go through this one slide on our budget to summarize the numbers. Rob?
Good evening, council members. This slide just kind of sums up what Jeff led out with, that we've been doing a lot more work with the same budget we've had over the last few years. Our budget increase this year is 5.7%, and that's solely driven by payroll. So you have your obligations to your contracts for unions increases, and then we had I think the equivalent of 3.6 full-time employees come over from grants into general fund, just moving some things around in the housing department. The huge increase in grants here is the news we got from the federal housing that funding is going to stay the same. Last year we made some assumptions that it was going to decrease. That's why you see a big jump there. But the housing funding is going to stay the same. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. So to wrap it up, hopefully what you see in front of you is an integrated team that is, I think, beyond competent. You'll see Judith, you'll see John, you'll see Paige, you'll see all of the folks here speaking across the state, sometimes across the country. We are being seen as a model for a lot of the policies and a lot of the capabilities that we're putting here in Hartford, and we're quite proud of that. And finally, hopefully what you get away from this is that we've been effective, and we've got a lot of work to do, and we really appreciate y'all's guidance and the direction that we've gotten from your constituents on all the matters that come before us. And we are proud that we've been able to live up to some of the big promises that the mayor made for us when he came on a couple years back. But hopefully you feel the same pride that we do in this team and the work we've been doing. So if there's any questions or anything else, please let us know.
Thank you, Director Ocker, and thank you for your team. Truly, it's a great presentation, very well laid out. I have said that I like to have one round of questions with 2 questions each, and one of my colleagues has said maybe we could be a little more flexible. So I am saying we will start with 1 round of questions with 2 questions each, and we will see where that leads us. We do have 2 other departments who need to present. I will start with my colleague to the right, Councilman Mitchell. Left.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to all of you. I agree. It was a really solid set of presentations. First, for Director Deutsch, I just have a question about you referred to sort of the ongoing development of the bike walk plan network. There's a plan. There's like a plan the city's working from, right?
That's correct, Councilman. We have a bike master plan, which was adopted about 5 years ago now, that we're working off of.
And that plan, in its making, involved figuring out, impact on businesses, talking to constituents. Like, it's meant to sort of synthesize all of those interests, right?
That's correct. It involved a range of stakeholders in its development and had an eye towards a number of benefits of bike infrastructure, not just transportation, but also the economic benefits and many other benefits that it could carry.
Okay, thanks. That's all I had for you. I'll pick one other person, and then I'll wait till my next turn. If I'm good. I have a fair rent commission question, and I realize I don't know who I should direct that to.
That'd be me, John.
Okay. So, Director Cabral, Mike, it says here that we have 63 cases managed. New Haven has 430, right? And they have 58% renters, and we have 75%. Why are our numbers so, I mean, and I'm not saying this like you've failed. I assume there's some reason that has to do with funding and staffing, but why are our numbers so anemic?
Yeah, so we actually, it's interesting. We talked to Wildelise Bermudez, who you know very well, who's managing the Parent Commission down in New Haven. It's a couple of reasons from my perspective. First, I don't think Hartford residents are as familiar with the Parent Commission as New Haven residents are. When talking to the folks in New Haven, they some years ago actively built their capacity and went out into the community to really let folks know who the Parent Commission was, what they do, what their rights are. We haven't quite done that here in the city of Hartford. We don't, at the present moment, we have one staff member who manages the commission on a part-time basis. When New Haven decided to build capacity in their Parent Commission, they expanded and actually hired someone, a director, to manage the Parent Commission on its own. They have a mediator, they have a data collection person, and they have an admin. So they're a staff of, I think, 4 or 3.5. And that really helped them expand the capacity of the Parent Commission and their ability to meet, manage, to go out in the community and manage more cases. I'm actively working with a network of other commissions throughout the state and talking to the mayor's office to figure out how we could better serve residents by building the capacity of our Parent Commission. I think there's a couple things we can do this year, but I'm hoping that we can bring on additional capacity, especially on the mediation side. So I think that's really where you can get more bang for your buck and help more residents.
Thank you for that. Just one clarifying question. In terms of, for us, I mean, what I hear you saying is that it's fundamentally a staffing question. New Haven has 4 to our 1. What would it cost? I want to get where they're at. What would it cost us, roughly?
Can I get back to you with the exact dollar amount? It would require, if we were to get to the New Haven's level, we would have to really beef up the commission in a way that would require some significant dollars. They also do a lot of marketing as well. So there's more than just staff. It's relationship building. That's something I'm hoping we can do coming this year. My concern with doing that before we build capacity is we get the word out and then we get overwhelmed and not help folks and have folks become frustrated. So my hope is that we can sort of do that in tangent, but I can get you an actual dollar amount probably sometime next week. You talk to New Haven very frequently about how they built out their commission.
Thank you.
For the capacity, I should say. Yeah.
Got you. Thank you much. I would appreciate that.
Yep.
Council President.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening to Director Alker and all your Deputy Director and the rest of your leaders of your divisions. Great presentation. I'm very impressed with the aesthetics as well. So great job on that. Last week, our COO mentioned in his presentation that Hartford is now a college town. And with respect to I saw in the presentation, I think 64 units are going to be placed for housing for UConn. In your camp, with all your great, brilliant leaders that you have, how are you working with the administration to prepare the city to be that college town? And particularly developing downtown. When you think of College Town, closest one we have is New Haven with Yale and how they've built up that area around the town green across the street from their city hall. So what's the plan to make that us feel like we are actual College Town?
Good evening. Great question, Council President. Jack Benjamin, Economic Development Director. So this is something we think a lot about, right? Because it not only has to do with the economy of the city, but actually the city's identity, right? So essentially it has to do with a couple things, one of which is building a critical mass of housing in a downtown area to support a student population, which is something we're very focused on. So beyond the sort of amenities that students are going to look for, like say a Pratt Street, and other sort of retail locations, bars, restaurants, that kind of thing. They're looking for a concentration or a critical mass of college students in an area. We see one of the opportunities to do this through the office to residential conversion projects that we should be undertaking within the next few years. And we are looking for opportunities to partner with some of the institutions to supply dedicated housing downtown from the colleges. Additionally, one of our partners that we work with and that we belong to is CT Main Street, who I met with the director of yesterday, and we had a specific conversation about how Hartford should be on, if not the first page, but the second page of any given college's brochure, right? We want to be advertised as a place where students want to come. And what does it take to build that downtown? So those conversations are ongoing.
And what I'd like to add on to that too is we've been working very closely at the intersection of the colleges in the area and our corporations. With the advent of AI and the changes happening in the workforce, especially at that entry level, we've been working very carefully with folks like Travelers, Hartford Healthcare, and others to understand what skills they're looking for, and then working with the colleges through a variety of curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular programs, AI being one of them, where we can align, and this matches with the state strategy, define what the employers around here are looking for, define the programs that will deliver those skill sets, and then create a city where people want to stay. That's that ever all-important workforce track that goes, when you start adding on things like Christina Baldwin's work and partnerships we have with groups like Ready CT in the K through 12 area, you start to see a path from birth in Hartford through school in Hartford to a job in Hartford. And that, as people are debating what the value and the purpose of college is, we want to be on the leading edge of how that works, and we've got a clean slate to work with. And so there's bigger talks going on as well about who we are, to Jack's point on identity.
So thank you for that. And just a couple of follow-up questions. Because I noticed that there's, I don't want to say an alarming rate, but there's an increased rate of vacant spots downtown. And I was downtown Tuesday for a meeting, so I parked on Trumbull Street and I walked up Asylum. So I was actually noticing, well, we have a lot of vacant spaces, not to mention the long-standing vacant spaces underneath the People's Bank Arena. So you're saying, Jack, that housing will drive companies to take up one of these spots along Trumbull or Pratt Street because of increased focus on housing?
Yeah, I think building that critical mass of housing for retail establishments to know that there will be the feet on the street to support their operations is a big part of it. I think it takes some public placemaking by the city to accomplish creating the sort of atmosphere that will also be conducive to those sort of establishments wanting to locate. I can tell you that we are working with partners in the private sector right now on some public realm redesign. There should be announcements relatively soon publicly about some of those efforts. And we think that those, along with working with small business, to try to fill the storefronts and create as long an unbroken chain of retail storefronts as possible will be the answer. But yeah, a lot of it is about building up that critical mass, right? Becoming the 16-hour downtown, becoming a place where on any given Saturday you can show up and there's an event, there's somebody busking on the street corner playing music, there's something going on at one of the bars or restaurants. It's going to take a little bit to get there, but we think we have the right partners and the right vision to do it.
Thank you. So follow up to that. is, I know the city has the marketing department, and we have Metro Hartford Alliance, Hartford Chamber of Commerce. Are there conversations being had, and I don't know if we still have the Connecticut Convention Bureau regarding all of these, so all of these marketing people, are they working with DDS to market, to come to Hartford? We want you to move to Hartford. We want you to experience what we have.
So our 10 o'clock meeting this morning, I think, 10 or 11, Paige and Shannon, the Director of Marketing, and I met with Metro Hartford Alliance on a number of issues, one of which was specifically promoting Hartford in that vein.
Okay, and I promise you I knew nothing about your meeting, so these are just good questions that I've had, but thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? I do, but it's your turn. I'll let you go, and then I'm going to close up.
Where was I? I think this is for you, Director Ucker, because it has to do with more than one of your team. All the home ownership initiatives that were in the presentation, how many people are those serving, and for what cost? Because like I looked at the presentation and I see 18 city-owned parcels are being developed and 10 employees were assisted with buying homes, but those are the only numbers. What's the reach in terms of people who are housed through all the home ownership initiatives? And then what's the portion of the budget that goes to those initiatives?
It's a very fair question. I think the short answer to that is let me get back to you with actual numbers on that. It's something we're working on with the mayor. And we've been working with Eric Lusa to make sure we have the right book of record, and book of truth on all the different properties and what we're doing with them. I admit, if we say 10 employees helped, it's a start, it's not scale. Your question to John about how many folks are going for the fair rent program, there's some things there that we really want to ramp up, and we're looking very carefully at the resources we have so we maximize those, so we can ask you, like, we need 1, 2, 3 people, because here's the quantitative impact that would have. In progress, fair question, absolutely something we owe you.
Okay, and if you can't do this, that's fine. You'll get back to me, but like ballpark in terms of people housed through the home ownership initiatives, are we talking about 100, 50, 1,000?
So John, I'll kick that over to you because there's a couple ways you can cut that. I want to let you take the cut and then I'll follow up.
Sure. So for the down payment assistance programs, we anticipate, looking at the changes we're going to make with House Hartford, we'll definitely have at least 10 home buyers. We will probably have that budget $400,000 of home dollars for that. So that's $40,000 of down payment assistance through the House Hartford program. The city employee program, most folks who are going through that program are eligible for up to $40,000, and they are getting about $40,000 in down payment assistance. So again, we're talking about 10 folks, $400,000. So pretty significant numbers. Maybe want more people to be involved in that, but for the lots to homes, we're working with developers now who've been selected to try to figure out what the right size units are. But most of the folks who have been awarded lots have indicated they want to build 2-family homes. So some of these lots are fairly large and could be subdivided. So we're thinking about at least 21 single-family units, most of them 2-family homes. So you're thinking on the home ownership side, there'll at least be 21 home ownership opportunities, and potentially an additional 20 rental units that go with that. And so with the Lots to Homes initiative, we are offering a construction subsidy that's both state and city dollars. So there's $4 million total in that program, for that initiative. That will only go to the lots. That'll be for other homeownership construction projects. But that's $4 million, $2 million from the city, $2 million from a minimum $2 million from the state. We may get an additional allotment from the state, which we're hoping to we're hoping to use.
Thank you.
I hope that answered your question.
I was about to say that did answer my question very concisely.
Okay.
And then I have a question, well, series of questions, but I'll try to be quick, I promise, for Director Rothschild about housing enforcement, rental, the things I always ask you about. First, you may recall last year I asked about a plan to have data about enforcement actions, sort of cumulative data, things that could show us, sort of who are the major offenders, to have that accessible publicly. And when I asked 2 years ago, it was coming, and when I asked last year, the answer is we don't know, got to ask MHIS. So I'm going to ask again, when will the time come with these data-driven improvements that this body, anyone can say, okay, here are the places where the violations are, here are the big problems, here's how fast the city is resolving them. When can we hope for that?
Well, I think we don't have a place on the internet yet, but we have the data that we've proven that we've had those violations addressed and corrected in big numbers. But I understand your point, and I would have gone home sad had you not asked me these questions again. But I do think that it's a goal we should reach. We do have improvements going on with our data systems as far as internal processes for certainly the building permit process and also for all of the code enforcement processes. But to throw that up into a public-facing, interfacing system is still in process, and I don't have a better report for you at this point.
Okay. And the bad landlords list, or the problem landlords list, which the mayor has talked about a lot, if I wanted to know who's on the problem landlord, suppose I'm a renter, right, and I want to avoid these landlords, where do I find this list? Because I searched on the city website and I could not find it.
Well, the mayor's list was made public at his press conference, and I think he did it again a year prior. But that list is an ever-evolving list. I mean, I can tell you that within a half hour of the mayor publicizing his last list in December, the landlords that were pronounced in that list came forward and said, I don't want to be on this list, what do I have to do? We do that on a daily basis with landlords. As I mentioned, even today we had a meeting like that. It wasn't in the media, but it was exposed and it was trampled all over, because that's what it needs to be. But if a tenant wants to know if a property is a safe property, they simply need to contact us and ask us about it. I mean, it is all public record. We work closely with the Greater Hartford Legal Aid. They represent a lot of tenants with housing conditions under that existing program funded in part by the city. And they contact us and ask for documents, and we provide them easily, quickly to them. But I think that's the best thing, is to be aware that you can ask for that information and receive it on any landlord, for any property, for any entity, at any time.
Okay. My 2 cents is that if we have a list of landlords we want to shame and coerce, we should put their names on the internet. But we don't have to talk about that more. And then my last question, similar to last year, how many code enforcement actions have been referred for criminal charges in the preceding year, since I last asked you?
Close to 40.
How many have resulted in criminal charges?
A lot less. So I know you understand the system very well with your day job, sir, and I do with my former day job. The thing is, the goal for housing prosecutions has always been compliance. So of the 30, I'd say it was 30 a few months ago, I'd say we're up to probably closer to 40 referrals. And this is just from the Housing Code Division. That doesn't include the fire marshal who gives other cases to the state's attorney's office. It doesn't include the criminal administrative search warrant effort that we just did with the state's attorney's office. I can tell you that all but 2 became compliant, and those 2 were charged. We have about 4 in the pipeline right now that are not compliant. The state's attorney often takes in our affidavit, our complaint, and reviews it and sends a letter requiring compliance, or they will consider bringing charges. And there's 4 in the pipeline that she has done that, and we are grateful for her assistance. It usually works. It didn't work in those 4 cases, so those arrest warrant applications are coming into her now.
Okay. Actually, I appreciate that. The compliance part is really the part I'm getting at, so that's good. And then my last question is, how many receiverships has the city taken of non-compliant landlords' buildings?
None that I'm aware of at this point. We are discussing receivership on 3 different properties with Corporation Counsel.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm set.
Thank you. I have 2 comments and then sort of a question. First of all, I really appreciate 31 Kenyon is active. I have received more calls and before, except for Owen, but it's not his fault, before any of you were there on 31 Kenyon. And I know it's complicated, but that it's active is really because it is just such an eyesore, and I can't believe it's gone on this long. But thank you. And I know from Jack, your presentation, certainly there's, you know, activity with neighborhood economic development, but I often hear, and it's just not you guys, when we're marketing Hartford, that it's kind of downtown centric. And certainly when you talk about colleges, we do have Trinity, we do have University of Hartford, we're 18 square miles. And, you know, even talking with marketing recently, I was somewhat, even though they're great, I was somewhat disappointed that it was so not neighborhood centric, not neighborhood specific. If they were really looking to engage the neighborhoods as they said they were, it was not. So I know it's a battle that we continue to balance because of what we want to do, but I think we always have to have that in the forefront of our minds, because even with all the development we've done downtown with the apartments, which is great to see them, they leave. Our neighborhoods are here, and I think we need to pay equal attention to them. So that's my soapbox for that. This is kind of a complicated thing, but it drives me crazy, and it came up the other day, and probably nothing, you're the experts. The parking lot on Main, Pratt and Asylum, that we don't own, but again, I've been around this long, as my colleague likes to point out. It was going to be a hotel probably 28, 30 years ago, a union hotel at that. And now it's a parking lot on a major thoroughfare in a capital city. And certainly I know people need parking, but it shouldn't be a parking lot. Any comments you'd like to make?
I agree it shouldn't be a parking lot. You know, when we talk about best practices for planning and economic development, part of it is not having sort of your Main Street sawtoothed, right, where you have structures and lots and structures and lots. It's a fantastic infill opportunity. There's been visioning around what could be there. To say we have the owner as a partner in that vision, we can't sit here and say that today. But it's certainly a desire of at least economic development to see a more productive use of that parcel.
Well, anything we can do to make that more productive, let's discuss. With that being said, oh, you're pushing it there, Councilman.
Yeah, I'm pushing it,
Okay.
but it's, so I wanted to just come back to the questions I asked about the home ownership and the Fair Rent Commission, and just, I'm looking at these numbers that were shared with me, and we are going to get to 30 new homeowners for a city outlay of $2.5 million. Obviously, that's with some state money as well, but $2.5 million gets us 30 new homeowners. And my understanding is we could get roughly from 63 Fair Rent Commission cases handled to 430. That's roughly 367 more. Did I do that math right? It's over 300 more people whose housing is presumably, who have access to more secure housing, if we had perhaps 4 more staff members and more spending. If we took the $2.5 million that we spent to create 30 homeowners, even if every staff member we add to the Fair Rent Commission costs us $200,000, which I think is generous, as an average. That's only $1 million. That leaves us $1.5 million for all of the publicity and infrastructure and building, and we're impacting 10 times as many people in terms of their housing. So I just want to put that on your radar as perhaps an adjustment of priorities that would be appropriate for a city that is 75% renters.
Noted. Fair points.
Council President?
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Based upon the mayor's recommended budget, it's clear that we are experiencing a revenue issue where we just don't have the tax base that we once had, which is attributed to a lot of things. Your department generates, I don't remember how much, millions of dollars, but millions of dollars that helps to support our revenue. What's the goal with DDS to really get us back to where we should be and as to growing our grant list?
It's critical. I would say we're the operational arm of that. I'm not going to sit here and say we don't have influence, but we aren't really the deciders of the strategy, but we are the ones that make it effective moving forward. The questions about downtown and our emphasis on that are valid and one, but also that's where we want to get our tax base. We don't, I think the mayor's been clear on this, raising taxes on the neighborhoods and the residents is not the path we want to take. So the diligence and the time and the effort and the coalition we've put together to address the vacancies, the commercial vacancies downtown, whether it be through conversions to housing to help, a lot of these issues that Councilman Michton brings up, although that'd be downtown, not necessarily in the neighborhood where, Councilwoman Rossetti was saying we really need to focus. There's going to be this back and forth, this tit for tat. There's going to be some big hits downtown in a good way if we do this right, where we can bring large buildings back on the tax rolls that really start to take big chunks out of the revenue needs that we have. But our focus is on growing that tax base so we don't have to raise the taxes on the smaller base. Now, Jack, if you have details on how you want to address that.
Yeah, I would just say, and also to Councilwoman Rossetti's point about focusing on the neighborhoods, we're also looking at a lot of initiatives to help infill housing and infill development in the neighborhoods. Right, so because for every parcel you have downtown that you can either turn back into productive use or convert into a use that has a higher assessed value, there are 10, 15, 20 out there in the neighborhoods that need the same kind of work. And part of that is through some strategic looks at the zoning code and whether or not things are being sort of artificially tamped down and can't realize full development potential because of either poor zoning overlaid or parts of the code that otherwise preclude good development. And some of it is looking at legacy parcels along our neighborhoods and commercial corridors that we may have an opportunity to do something with at this point, and they haven't been available for previous generations, and there was a market shift, and all of a sudden these properties are ready for reuse. And that goes back to our economic developments taking the mantle of being the repositioning agent, right? So how is this an acquisition project? Is this something we can partner with a private entity to do redevelopment on, to source a grant for? Is this a tax abatement partnership that will then ultimately result in a better valuation and future greater tax revenues? So we have a number of different tools, and I think that you sort of have to look at what's being done downtown, but you have to extrapolate those efforts into the neighborhood. And maybe the scale is not as great on any given parcel or property, but volume-wise, it's definitely there.
Thank you. And if I could just add quickly to that, the tax base is small to begin with. The area of land that we can tax in Hartford is very, very small. We have a lot of parks, nonprofits. We all know this. So when you add the large amount of vacant properties that are underutilized, where property owners are not paying taxes, it just exacerbates the situation. So we need a tourniquet. We need to stop that bleeding. And we can't do it ourselves. but we can do it with our partners. You know, we can re-engage, for example, with Habitat for Humanity. We can give them properties for $1, so that they'll re-engage in Hartford instead of looking at elsewhere in Hartford County for more projects to expand on. The Hartford Land Bank is going to be able to generate its own funding based on its track record that it's already created in getting funds from DOH. They're going to be able to ramp things up from scale. You know, they're looking at taking 20 properties from the city through council's approval as soon as possible. And they've got the expertise in place to micromanage these things in a way that we cannot, so that the end result will be quality workmanship where homeowners will want to stay and not just leave after a couple of years because the amenities aren't there and the planning isn't as good as it would be if there was a full team working full-time on these small projects. That'll leave us to focus on give us more time to focus on some of the larger things that need to be tackled. But there are a lot of outside entities that can supplement and buttress what we're doing if we engage with them the right way. And we're already building those relationships, and you know, those tools are in our toolbox.
Done? Thank you. Great presentation, and thank you again. That brings us to our next presentation, which is Capital Improvement Project. Director Julia Jack is here and her team. Are you, do you want to, are you ready? When, okay, all right. No problem. Okay, here we go. We have with us Capital Improvement Project, again, Julia Jack, Director, and her team. You're on there, Director.
All right, thank you so much, council people, for having us here today. I want to just thank God for being able to be here today, to be in this seat, and to be in this seat next to these incredible people. It is truly a blessing. So first, I'd also like to thank you for allowing us to share with you, go to the next slide, share with you who we are, what our North Star, why we're here. Go back one. You're going too fast. Who we are, why we're here, who we do it with, what our asset classes are, our initiatives, and then our recommended budget. So we're excited to go through all of this with you. Well, let's start with introductions. To my right is Christopher Amaya. He has been promoted to Project Controls Analyst. He was our management analyst, and we're very excited that he is taking on that role, which is very important for our projects and our fiscal responsibility. To my left is Julian Freund. He's the Director of Management and Budgets. And William Flower is our new Facilities and Energy Manager. So this is our team here. We do have our city architect behind me too. I want to mention that our new city architect, Patricia Nelson, is also in the room, so we're excited to have her on. So first, I just want to talk to you about our North Star, our mission, and our vision. Our mission is to plan, manage, and deliver capital projects that strengthen our city's infrastructure, enhance public safety, expand economic opportunity, and improve quality for the life of our residents. Our vision is a Hartford where every neighborhood has modern, reliable, sustainable public infrastructure, that we advance community well-being through capital investments, and we want to build trust through transparent and data-driven project delivery. Capital projects are not just stuff we build. We don't just build stuff. We hope to improve lives. And our intersections. So who do we do this with? There are so many intersections with the Capital Projects Office. I introduced our staff to you. Me, the director, our Facilities Energy Manager, Project Controls Analyst, and we have an open vacant slot for a Management Analyst, which helps us with our daily budgeting and project financials. We intersect with so many other departments, and moving and building on my predecessor's efforts to have monthly meetings with asset class leads and departments like police and fire. We intersect with project managers at DPW, DDS, who was just before you. We intersect with them, and police, fire, HPA, DCFY. We intersect with all of these because every department has a project or a need, whether it's energy, whether it's a facility need. They all have needs, so we're purposely meeting with them on a regular monthly basis. And we have external coordination, vendors and contractors. Organizations like Riverfront Recapture, Hartford Decides. So we're purposely engaging with them again on a monthly basis because we want to prioritize our projects and know what's not only needed now, but what we can foresee will be needed in the future for efficient and effective project management. And I just wanted, I think you all probably know what we do, how we do it, but I just wanted to share this with you because this is an important initiative for us now. We're concerned with planning, design, and construction, and closeout. We do the whole process. Financial tracking, community engagement, vendor management. And the reason why we have this slide up here is because we want you to know that we are working on effective and tighter project management. Effective project management through a whole project cycle helps to have less changes. It's more fiscal responsible use of taxpayer dollars, tighter schedules, and that helps with staffing So staffing time is more efficiently used as well when we have a good, tight project management process. And so that's how we do what we do. As we went over last year, we have the asset classes. This year we have one small variant, which again, we have been working on, and we have added it to our asset class. Facilities, infrastructure, parks, transportation, schools, and we've added energy as an asset class with our new facilities and energy manager that, though it touches all other asset classes, that is one focus we have that we are very excited about in the city. So I wanted to share with you a few asset class initiatives. These are a few, and definitely not all, because there are more than I could probably present now. That'd be a whole presentation on its own. And so we're going to start with our parks. And so our parks are like the backyard, the community backyard. That's how I see them. And so we have gotten together with DPW, and we have prioritized the parks and the splash pad at each park. We're developing a 5 to 10 year plan to try to get all of our park splash pads up to highest and best use, to renovate them, basically, is what I'm saying. And that, to get them all upgraded, it could be, it will be millions of dollars, maybe a $8 million range. So we have to have a plan where we can get our splash pads upgraded. Right now, what we're working on is we're working on getting them fixed, getting them functional as much as we can. I have put here, if you look on the left side of this slide, in the middle, that was Forester Park post-construction, and left bottom, that is Forester Park pre-construction is in the middle. Left bottom is Forester Park post-construction. So with our splash pads throughout the city, we are working to standardize the splash pads, again, to help with replacement parts and broken parts. One thing that is costing our facilities department and CIP, our budget, is having to repair the structures at the splash pads. So we're looking to standardize them. Now, as you see the bottom picture, not everybody likes that it doesn't look as pretty and colorful and things aren't jutting out of the ground. But what we've experienced with Forester Park is that the kids like the water. And once the water is moving and spouting, they're having a really good time. We're also looking to be innovative. And maybe there's some other ways that we can have a simple yet creative splash pad. This is what is on the right, with maybe water streams, water terrace on stairs. So we have our design team working on those types of ideas, understanding that our splash pads are increase physical activity for our children by 80%. The other part of parks that we're working on is our playscapes. Again, similarly, we've been working to prioritize our playscapes throughout the city and figure out which ones need replacement now, which ones are just deficient and we can do some fixing, and there are a couple that have been fixed. Batterson Park, which we're working on, and Forester Park, which was finished in 2023. So that is a similar issue as with the splash pads. Now, our playscapes is another item that we're working on, thinking maybe outside the box and being creative. Also to help the facilities department with replacement parts, having less replacement parts, but then actually having creative play. Innovative playgrounds attract 2.5 times more users and generate 3 times much more physical activity. So we're looking at all of our playscapes throughout the city, and not only to bring them up to grade and have them renovated or fixed, but also to think outside the box. And that's another part of our intersections. We enjoy working with our director of arts and culture, our marketing director, to do things to think differently about our projects. And again, our asset class, energy. Energy initiatives are a huge part of modernizing a city. These improvements aren't just good for the environment, they free up resources, they make our facilities better, and they move us toward a more resilient and efficient city. And just to go over some of our energy initiatives, our energy service performance contract, we have put out an RFP for an ESCO, an energy service company. We received 5 responses to our RFP, and then we will eventually soon have the company on so that we can work on our energy savings throughout the city. LED lighting conversions, HVA system upgrades, building controls, and et cetera, which will help us to be an efficient and cost-effective city. It will help us with costs and use of our energy. Other energy initiatives, we have the NRES program, which is a natural resource and environmental sustainability program, which you have seen some of these projects come before you with the landfill 4 megawatt array, the fuel cell build, and we're also working with Bridge Energy with photovoltaics, rooftop, and parking lots as well. We have the Energy Cap, which is a software which is tracking utilities, benchmarking, and analyzing our utilities throughout the city so we can understand where we are, where our consumption is, where we can decrease consumption, where we can use this energy efficiency and ESCO to help us to reduce our energy costs. And that is our Energy Cap software. And then we have virtual net metering. So this is where, again, some of this has come across your desks for approval, where off-site solar is created and the municipality, the city, get payback on it. So they're not even generating that electricity within the city, but we get actually dollars from it. I estimated this, so this is not a hard number because it's quarterly, and some are going to start this year, some start next year, some start in 2028. But starting in quarter 3 of 2026, we expect to get about $160,000 per quarter coming into the city from this virtual net metering. So just some highlights from fiscal year 26. Some accomplishments. Buckley High School is complete. Burns School is in construction, and that will be complete in November of this year. Kennelly, Wish, and Betances schools are all in construction. Batterson Park is scheduled to be completed and have a grand opening in April of this year. And the Maple Avenue Streetscape project is scheduled to be out to bid this summer, 2026. Areas of focus, we continue on our pay-go budget, and we look forward to bonding. We are focusing on transportation with our traffic calming. It's a big one that continues in the city. Infrastructure with our flood control, that's one that's going to be a multi-year initiative. We continue to work on that. And operation and project efficiencies is one of my favorite with our new project controls analyst, tracking, reporting, and document control. Again, all of these things will help our efficiencies in the city of how we work and deliver projects, decreasing change orders, and which increase dollars spent on projects. I also want to mention that we continue to work with our project management software, Procore, to help us track and manage budgets and have document control. I also want to share that we were able to recover dollars this year through these project management efficiencies. We recovered dollars on projects that had been completed as far back as 2015. We recaptured those dollars, and we were able to use them on other essential projects throughout the city. So that was very exciting for us. Next slide. And on to the fiscal 27 recommended capital improvement budget. And I'm going to hand this over to Julian to talk about our funding sources.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. In the FY27 budget book, you'll see in there that the list of projects that are programmed in for FY27 total $39.47 million. And those projects are supported by a variety of funding sources. And so what this slide has is essentially just a list and an explanation of the different funding sources that are supporting the FY27 capital program. And they can be broken down into two basic groups. There's the first group of funding sources that are approved through the budget process by you, and that's through the CIP ordinance. So it's one of the three ordinances that you adopt on the final day of budget adoption. So then, in addition to the funding sources that are approved through the budget process, we have some funding sources that are approved outside of the budget process. And so the first group there that are part of the CIP ordinance are most of those, I'm sure, look familiar to you. Most of them are recurring year after year. We have the CapEx contribution, which is essentially the general fund contribution to the capital program. There's LoCIP, which is a state grant specifically for local capital improvement projects. The third one on the list is a little bit different than what I think you're probably accustomed to seeing as part of our CIP funding structure, and that is a grants and aid program. It's a state-funded grant, and this funding is, we expect it to be a non-recurring source. So this is one-time funding that is provided over 2 years to the city. So in that respect, it's a bit of a windfall. And it is dedicated specifically to certain eligible projects. And there's essentially anything road or road related, anything related to flood control or managing the impact of climate change and resilience. And then there's also an aspect to it that allows for utilizing the grant towards operating expenses related to roads. So things like road maintenance, response to winter storms. So it would be things like the overtime and salt, plowing expenses and things like that. So it's kind of an interesting mix of eligible uses. Number 4 on the list is use of capital reserves. So from time to time, as projects are closed out, any remaining balance in those projects accrues to the reserve portion of the capital fund. And in any given year, there may be proposals to reprogram those funds for specific projects. In this particular year, we're proposing that some reserves in the education portion of the capital fund be allocated for some deferred major maintenance needs at the schools. And then the last of the sources that are approved through the budget process is the Parks Trust Fund, and that's a function of allocating investment income towards eligible parks projects. And then at the bottom there, I just listed the two general sources categories that are not part of the budget process. So there's the bond package, which is the $25 million bond ordinance. And so that's appropriated through the bond ordinance, a separate process that's been on the council agenda. And then other grants which come to you through separate processes. So for example, CDBG is something that you approve through a separate process, and really any other grants that come before you that are on a sort of a one-off grant or a competitive grant, you'll get those on your agenda and approve them separately. On the next slide, you'll see for those items that are approved through the budget process, this is what comprises the CIP ordinance. And you'll see that out of that $39.47 million total capital program for FY27, of that amount, $12.37 million will be part of your CIP ordinance. And that is the overall funding structure for this year.
So now we're going to talk about our capital allocation, like Julian mentioned. This is the capital allocation, 39 million versus the 12 million he just spoke about, and how it aligns with our plan of conservation and development. So we have 34 projects, approximately $40 million, a little bit less than $40 million, and this is the breakdown of how many projects are in each asset class. And this is how each of those projects align to our plan of conservation and development. I'm not going to go through each one unless you have questions, and the breakdown of the dollars allotted to those. Facilities asset class, again, I'm not going to go through each one of these. If you have any questions about a project, please, I'm ready and excited to talk to you about those. But the facilities asset class, there are 10 projects, almost $5 million, $4,880,000. This is not really a highlighted project. This is just our beautiful city hall, but just highlighting our municipal facility renovations fund. We use that every year for projects that come up throughout the year that are high priority. We're working this year to prioritize our projects from safety and health risks to time, budget, and then stakeholder needs. So we're putting together all of our project lists, making sure to prioritize appropriately to be able, and then use this fund efficiently, so we get the hot items done first, rather than just throwing everything at this fund. Not saying that's what we did, but we're just continuing to be mindful of this fund, our municipal facilities fund. In infrastructure, we have 16 projects, approximately $31 million. And that's the breakdown of how they align with the plan of conservation and development. We're highlighting the pump station improvements, $3 million project for infrastructure. Our pump stations throughout the city are essential to keeping our city dry. As you all know, you've probably known this longer than I have. So that's one of the projects that is on the list. Our parks asset class, all align with plan of conservation and development play category at $2,940,000. Highlighted here is Bankside Grove and Pope Park North. The cost for this project overall is approximately $1 million. We are looking for an extra $500,000. We're requesting an extra $500,000 this year because of some regulatory needs, and to be sure that we do the appropriate engineering so that we do not do any damage to the Park River conduit, which goes underneath this new pathway which we're about to build. Asset class transportation, all in the move category at approximately $1 million or $900,000. There are 2 projects in that category, all related to traffic calming. And the spotlight there is traffic calming for that asset class, and some pictures of projects that have been completed. And so what's next? I didn't give you a list of what's next for CIP because that'd be a whole nother presentation, but what's next here is questions and feedback from you. The month of April will be your deliberations, and then in May 21st, the budget is adopted. So those are the next steps with this process. If you have any questions, we look forward to answering them for you.
Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. I will now start from my right tonight, Council President.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you, Director Jack. Good to see you again, and to your distinguished team that's sitting at the tables. I think I'll start off with a comment. Burns School, my God, it's taken so long to get that school completed, but I'm glad that it's actually being completed this year. It's been 7 years? 8?
It started before I got here, so probably, yeah.
I think it's been that long. Been that long. It's about around that time, right? Yeah, it's been a long time. Regarding CIP, so vehicles under your, I know they are maintained by DPW, but as far as the city's overall fleet, is that managed under you if new fleet needs to be purchased or come up with a new program?
At this point, it is not, no.
Okay. So regarding, the energy that you mentioned regarding the city, I think that's a great plan. I had asked the COO Saturday regarding energy if the city had a plan to look at forming an energy grid. So not just for municipal portion city to take advantage of, but also to residents to help with hopefully lowering energy costs.
And your question is, are we doing that?
Yes, or any plans? Have you thought about it? Because you're thinking about how to make City Hall, other buildings more energy efficient, but just to expand it across the entire 18 square miles of our city.
I know through our sustainability office, the director of sustainability, Cecilia, they do work with residents on those type of energy efficiencies. With our energy and facilities manager, we haven't got that granular yet, but it is something that we should and need to look at, yes.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
I saw on your presentation Splash Splash, which I think is a great idea. However, I didn't see anything regarding our fields for field improvements. We have a sizable amount of fields, some in areas where there's a lot of green space, and then we also have, I think, 3 that are kind of turf related. Any plans? I recognize you didn't put it in this presentation, but through your conversations with the rest of your colleagues, any plans to upgrade our fields and whether they're turf and natural grass?
Yes, we do have meetings with the recreation department, with Brian, and we do talk about upgrading fields. Colt Park is one that they're focusing on now, and Keeney Park is another one. But yes, overall, talking about which fields and which sections of the city have needs, and in relation to sizes of teams and ages, and all of that are being accounted for, yes, and talked about, yes.
And one more question regarding our city infrastructure. So DDS was here earlier, and they handle blight and the city-owned properties. But as far as some of our infrastructure that I personally think could be renovated to turn into city use, so it can cut down on our rental costs to other buildings. Is your team looking at some of these possibly utilized buildings that we can get some dollars to reconstruct, so that we can either put it back on the tax rolls or consolidate additional offices and take them out of lease into city-owned properties?
That is a little bit on the peripheral of our look, but we are working now to connect with DDS on a deeper level, because that's more in their purview.
Yeah.
But that's part of that intersections that we're working on, really to connect with these types of initiatives, so that we can talk about dollars, we can talk about best locations, we can talk about the design and the spaces needed and all of that. So that is sort of at the beginning of happening. It's really all on DDS at this point, but it's definitely something that capital improvements needs to be in on.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Because what I'm thinking about is, the McCook Hospital, which has been talked about for many years as a veteran housing or some type of mixed use.
Right.
And it's been blighted for, I think, longer than I've been alive.
Yeah.
We have the old Bergdorf, which is next to the North End Senior Center. That's been blighted for many years.
Yeah.
I just drew, and possibly looking at, since, I'll back up. Since health is moving over to the new Albany Woodland,
Yes.
that will be offline
Yep.
and put online on city-owned property. And we can possibly take a look at removing all our offices from 250 Constitution Plaza into more of a city-owned space.
Yeah.
So those are just examples that hopefully that your team we'll be discussing, see if we have a strategy for that.
Yes.
All right.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Mitchum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks to all of you for this presentation. Just a question about the schedule around the splash pads and the playgrounds. You know, you said there's a 5 to 10 year plan, and there's like lists of priorities. How does that? Well, here I'll just pick an example so I can understand. George Day Park. That's my neighborhood park that I
Yeah.
take my daughter to. On one of those was highly deficient and priority 2, and on the other was deficient and priority 3. What does that mean in terms of where it fits in time-wise in those 5 to 10 years?
That's an incredible question. I don't know if I have the answer for that now, only because to replace splash pad or a playscape, it's a $500,000 ask. So I would love to do 2 a year, maybe $1 million a year. So that may even be closer to the 10-year mark. But yeah, that's what we're working on, trying to see how we can actually take the bite out of that with all the other priorities that
That was
that
the
are on
ballpark
plate.
was all I was
Yeah,
trying to understand.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
answers my question.
So
I
priority
appreciate
3, maybe year 4.
it. Fair enough. I get you. And then I see police firing range, $850,000. That was in the budget last year, if I remember correctly. And I guess my question is this another $850,000 for fixing the police firing range?
Yeah, I don't remember if the ask last year, but if it was $850,000,
It was
but so
right around there, yeah.
Yeah, this year, yes, we have another ask because the cost estimation is around $1 million or more. And the reason for that is the project started off where we were just going to build a better berm so that the bullets wouldn't
Reach East Hartford.
reach beyond the point where they're supposed to go. But now, with the new design, it also has a sort of a hat on it. There's health and safety issues with the need of a bathroom and places for the police officers to wash their hands after they get lead on their hands. So there have been some additional needs. We did also get a new designer on, so that took our design to another level so that they can have what they need, so it'll be safe, it'll be usable. And just to put a little plug in there, other towns use our firing range. So this will be good for us. It could be a revenue generator. So the money will be well spent.
They
But
pay
yes.
us?
What's
The
that?
other towns pay us to use the firing range?
Do we know if they pay us? I'm not.
I feel like I remember asking this last
That I'll
year,
have
and
to
the answer
get-
was
that I'll have
no.
to get back to you because I'm not sure. Right.
So, I'm a related question.
Yeah.
So, the ask was, I think, was about this much last year, and it's this much now. You said it's a $1 million project, but we're over $1 million with this ask.
Right.
Is this the end of our investment in police shooting?
In the police firing range? From my perspective, yes. We're going to take the funds that we have and we're going to build what we have designed. The only reason you see me hesitating, we know that construction costs rise by the month, but we are going to build a safe and effective firing range for the funds that we have with this new ask. That is our plan. And, we put contingency in there for that reason, for unforeseens. So, yeah.
Understood. And then a last very quick question. You said Batterson Park's grand opening is this month. We only got 2 weeks left. When is it? I want to go.
Right. Okay, so that slide may be outdated. We did have a plan to open in April. I've been off scene for a couple of weeks, so I'm not up to date. So I'm not up to date on the new opening, but I will get that to you. There's one thing that I can guarantee is that we will not open without your knowledge and awareness ahead of time.
It might be May, and I'm not trying to.
Right.
But it's not necessarily the next 2 weeks, but it's soon.
Right, it's very soon, yes, yes. Okay, June is the opening now. June is the new date. for the
Noted.
opening.
Thank you to you
Thank
and
you,
to
Chris.
Director Hayes.
Thank you, Chris.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. First of all, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for a great presentation. Thank you to your colleagues. I'm going to ask something that I know probably the answer is no, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Because splash pads and activity in water are so important for children, why can't we just make the case to the Park Trust Fund that we need to, especially the 4 that are shut down, replace those?
We sure can. Yes, we can. We, the allocation that they gave us for the 4 to 5 years ends this year. So the next fiscal year, we can make another ask for whatever the profits are from the Hartford Park Trust Fund. But yes, we can definitely do that.
And, excuse me, I may be incorrect, I often am, but I think there's been special asks in the past. Can we try that?
Ahead of that schedule, you mean? Yes, we sure can.
My mother used to say, all they can say is no, right?
Yes.
Okay, that and Batterson was answered, and I will leave with, again, because I am so old, and Kennelly School is where I went to grammar school, Council President. I'm glad to see that Kennelly School is in construction because I know how old that school is, so I'm glad to see that's happening. Other than that, if there are no other questions from my colleagues, and I'm wrong, Council President.
Since we're on the subject of schools, has a feasibility study been done on the schools that are offline as to what we can do to utilize that space?
I understand that the feasibility study is in process and not completed.
Okay, thank you.
Now, if there are no other questions, I thank you for your presentation, and we look forward to our next presentation with the internal audit.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, here we go. First of all, thank you. First of all, I have to start with how appreciative we were that you accommodated us by moving from Tuesday to tonight. Thank you very much. You know, that really was useful for us, and I certainly know that you had to change your life around. So that brings us to our next presentation and final, which is internal audit. We have our chief auditor here, Donna Barberi, and you are now, where'd your presentation go? There it is. You are now on.
Okay. Good evening, Council President, council members, colleagues, and others in attendance. My name is Donna Barberi, and I'm the Chief Auditor for the City of Hartford. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to provide you with a summary of the Internal Audit Department, our results and initiatives, and our recommended budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027. I begin with the mission. The mission of the Internal Audit Department is to provide independent and objective audits, reviews, special investigations, management consulting of business activities, operations, financial systems, and internal controls. The Internal Audit Department seeks to assist City Council and City Administration to ensure compliance with the City Municipal Code, federal and state laws, and city policies and procedures, safeguard assets, promote operational effectiveness and efficiency, and perform continuous quality improvement initiatives. The Internal Audit Department accomplishes its mission by carrying out a plan of internal audits selected by a risk analysis process. To ensure the appropriate level of independence and objectivity, the Chief Auditor reports directly to the Internal Audit Commission as stated in the City Charter. Here's my org chart. The department is comprised of 5 positions led by the Chief Auditor. Currently, we have 3 auditors, Jay Johnson, Fulak Wynn, and Christopher Lombardo. We have 1 open position, no administrative or support staff. The department as a whole has well over 100 years of experience. In addition to being certified, all audit staff also have master's degrees. Moving on to our 2026 highlights. We are on target to complete the number of planned audits with a vacant position. Our planned audits are selected based on an in-depth review of the level of risk in addition to when the last audit occurred. We made recommendations to improve policies, procedures, and controls over various departmental processes and functions in our audit reports. And we continue the process to follow up on audit recommendations and management action plans noted in our reports. We completed various investigations, special reviews, and projects. Our investigations and special reviews are unplanned and generated by requests from city administration and concerned citizens. The Chief Auditor and auditors continue to maintain professional certifications through our required continuing professional education training programs. All department staff must be certified as either a certified public accountant or a certified internal auditor, and require at least 40 hours of training per year, including 2 to 4 hours of ethics training. And we maintain the audit fraud hotline. The fraud hotline can be accessed via telephone or email for anyone to report any suspected wrongdoing in the city. Our strategic initiatives. I would like to conduct a comprehensive review of the audit universe and the risk assessment process to increase our focus on high priority audit areas to ensure optimal alignment with organizational goals. The audit universe is broken down into auditable areas, currently 171 audits, 58 of which are high risk, 70 are medium, and 43 are low risk. Our annual plan is about 20 audits per year, and with that, it would take 8 years to perform all 171 audits. And we use this information to determine our audit plan, which we will be working on really soon. And I would like to update it as necessary because we start by the budget and all the departments and all their line items. And I'm trying to make consolidations and things like that. Our next initiative is enhancing the follow-up process, where we verify management action plans have effectively mitigated identified risks within scheduled timelines. The auditors currently perform this work throughout the year, and I would like to enhance our process to prioritize timely completion. Between fiscal year 2023 and fiscal year 2025, there were 48 issues identified, and so far we have 11 resolved. Actually, I should say management has 11 resolved. I would like to update the auditor job descriptions to accurately reflect current technical requirements and expanded scope of responsibilities. I'm also thinking about including other certifications, such as a Certified Information Systems Auditor and Certified Fraud Examiner. With that being said, I'd like to reclassify the auditor positions to ensure that they are optimally aligned with internal roles requiring comparable specialized skill sets. And last, we will continue to perform special investigations, and I would like to expand special projects and reviews. Our budget comparison. Our 2026 adopted budget from the general fund is $569,483. Our recommended 2027 budget is $578,895, just under a 2% increase based on union negotiated payroll. Budget highlights. In accordance with Article 2, Section 2-41 of the Municipal Code, there shall be an internal audit commission and internal audit unit that shall be a department of the City of Hartford. The internal audit department shall conduct independent examinations and evaluations of city activities to ensure the integrity, efficiency, efficacy of the government of the city, including the following: City of Hartford departments, Hartford Public School Systems, Hartford Parking Authority, Hartford Public Libraries, the Hartford Stadium Authority, City Treasury, Municipal Employees Retirement Fund, grants, funded programs, and agencies. And here's our staff composition. We are 100% non-residents. We are 25% Hispanic, 50% Caucasian, 25% Asian, 25% female, and 75% male. And that concludes my budget presentation. I welcome any questions, comments, or other input you may have at this time.
I will say, I think to date, you are the most excited about giving your budget presentation, so good job. I will now start to my left. Councilman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the enthusiastic and thorough budget presentation. You talked about the audits were broken down by high risk and medium. What does that mean? Risk of what?
Well, basically, we take, like I said, we take the departments and we look at the different areas, and then we come up with, we look at dollar amounts, and then we kind of look at an overview, and we kind of give it a risk rating, high, medium, or low.
But when you give it a risk rating, you're sort of saying this is an area where we think we're more likely to find waste or whatever it is that we would like to correct. Is that, I don't, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to, risk of what?
I guess it would, yes, it would be more waste. We look at a lot of different things, and I wasn't a part of it when they set it up, and so that's part of my initiative to go through and review to make sure that the ratings that we have are current.
Got you. And my other question is concerning the vacancy, the one additional auditor.
Yes.
How long, I should know this, but the past is blurry to me. How long has that seat been open, and is it normal that it should, like, I just don't have a sense. Is it hard to hire an auditor? What are we looking at?
It's been open for about 4 months now. It is based on the industry. So we're going to get people who are working for CPA firms. Right now is tax season. It just ended, so not a lot of activity. We also require the candidates to be certified. So that reduces the number of applicants because not everyone has a certification that works in the field.
So have we just not gotten adequate applicants yet?
We have not found a qualified applicant to date. But I'm hoping that now that tax season is over, that someone is going to want to make a change. I'm hoping.
And my last question on this, if someone doesn't have the adequate certifications, and forgive my ignorance on the nature of the certifications, but do we make room for them to apply and be getting the certification, or do they have to get it first?
Currently, it is required first, and that's what's happening. We have people applying. They're just not qualified because they do not have that certification. It is one of the things that I am thinking about perhaps doing in the future, where maybe we bring someone in who doesn't have a certification and they can do certain things in the audit, and then, but it would only be like limited. They could only move up to a certain level. In order to move up to like the official auditor role, they would have to be certified. And just getting one of those certifications. That's why I'm thinking about increasing the certifications as well that way.
Gotcha.
Maybe
Understood.
we might get some more candidates.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Council President?
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Chief Auditor, hello, how are you? On my time on council, I think you have been the most exuberant department chief to give a presentation, at least coming out of the IAC.
Thank you.
And so I would speak for the rest of my colleagues. We appreciated your presentation. Just to follow up on Councilman Mishdim's question regarding certification, to reclassify it is basically your decision and not HR's, or does it need to be a combination thereof?
I'm not really sure of the answer. Personally, I think you have to be certified to do a lot of the work that we do. And that's why I'm thinking down the road, maybe we could bring someone in and with the hopes that they would want to be certified or get certified to move on. But right now, it has just been in the job description, and I'm just going by it's in there.
Okay. How long does the certification take?
The certified public accountant, that's usually done after their college degree program, they sit for the exam. You do have to pass all 4 parts to get certified. A certified internal auditor, you can take the exam is given in the same time period as the CPA, May and November. But you don't have to have a particular degree.
Okay.
Where a CPA, their degree is in accounting.
Okay. All right. Thank you. In the process of an audit,
Yes.
how, and I understand you have the IAC, how are the audits determined? Random? I'm assuming, actually, I know it's random, but how random is the random selections?
What I did last year was I went through and rated them by risk rating. So I wanted to look at the majority should be high risk. And then I like to throw in medium risk and low risk, because if you don't do that, then, people think that they can get away with things. So I always like to throw some in. And then I look at the last date it was audited. And so if there was something that's really old, I like to put it on the plan to get it done, just to make sure that things change from year to year. So it is, I will tell you, from the universe, 170 to narrow it down to 20 a year. It's a hard decision to make, but we can always substitute depending on if it's not a good time for the department, because we have to work with the department, and if it's a busy, what we usually find is we're going to go in and the department says, hey, this is like my busy time. Can you postpone it? So we postpone it. We look at the audit plan, we go down the list, we try to get something else done, and that's how it goes.
So based upon the plan, and I thank you for this, because I don't think, at least my time on council, it really has not been broken down as to how audit goes through its process. Based upon, I would say, the plan and workup, that's how you determine what gets audited within the department?
Well, we broke it down, so each department could have multiple audits. So we just rate, I just look at the whole universe of 171, and then I kind of highlight, I look at all the high priority ones, and I look at the dates that they were last audited. And then I just I start there, and then I move on to the next category, medium risk, and I kind of do the same thing. I also I don't want to have too many audits in one department. I would like to see like an audit from each department, but it doesn't work that way all the time. So sometimes departments have multiple audits on the schedule, and other departments are not on the schedule at all.
Now, regarding departments, there are departments that have divisions, and within divisions, they have units.
Yeah.
So do you get down to the, down in the weeds regarding like units? Because and by that is like, all right, for a fire, you have suppression, you have community service, you have special services, and let's say within special services, there's another unit. So you get down that granular?
We do.
Okay.
As far as I can remember, we basically break it down. We kind of follow the budget book. So if they have their different units and different divisions, if they have a dollar amount assigned to it, it gets put into our auditable universe.
Okay. Okay. And do you, when you go through your list of deciding on what audit is going to be done, is it a part of the IAC's meeting that you present your plan and then they approve it? Or do they present you with what they want to see and work it that way? How is that process?
Well, I'm not sure how it was done in the past, but last year, I went through the audit universe. I put a list of audits together on the plan, and I submitted it to the Internal Audit Commission, and then they approved it during a meeting.
Okay, it's that simple. And when somebody calls a fraud line, how do you determine whether you want to take it up or not? Or is it an automatic thing that you have to take it up?
I'm going to have to say that I don't really receive many calls on the fraud hotline. I don't even think the phone rang once. And we've had a couple things come through via email, but it hasn't been very active. And so I'm not sure if it's because people aren't aware that they have this avenue, or they're afraid it's not anonymous. I'm not really sure.
So if I'm somebody from the public, I'm Joe Public, and I call you and say, hey, I want you to run an audit in this department because I heard what they're doing there, or somebody told me what they're doing there. How do you verify that the accuracy of the information?
Well, I haven't really, I guess, had to do that, but I'm envisioning, yes, I would take down the information and then go and try to validate whether, yes, it's true, or no, it is not. If it's true, then we would do like a special investigation. If it's not, then nothing gets done.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I have no questions. I just want to thank you again. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for accommodating us. And if there are no other questions, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Watch how I do this.
Thank you.